Slaptail Squad, assemble.
All right, well, welcome to the Slaptail Squad, and I am the Beaveman. Let's get slapping! Does that sound right? Is that good?
No, it sounds like a masturbation thing.
Wow. Okay. I mean, it's if you want to say that. Well, here I am in Slaptail Nation Studios, or Productions, or whatever you want to call it. I am looking at a computer screen because the Ronz is not here. And Sky is not quite directly below me. I can actually see his bedroom window from my office.
It's like kitty corner.
It's kitty corner.
That is creepy.
I mean, there's a tree in the way.
Yeah, it's not like I'm staring into my son's room.
Once again, I will not comment on how creepy that can sound. I'll let our audience come to that conclusion.
And my second in command, if you will, my number 2.
Oh, Jesus.
The Alpha
is
Team
just
lead.
so wrong.
The Alpha Team squad leader, the Alpha Team leader, if you will, the Ronz.
Hey, how you doing?
Can you give us a better A than that?
I've got 24 other letters I could do. No, 26. Jeez, I can't think. Hey, how's
25.
that? 25. Well, it's sometimes Y, so do you count that?
Yes, you do.
You actually always do count Y as a letter in the alphabet.
I never got that wrong. Sometimes Y. I'm like,
I think you're counting that. I think you're confusing that with vowels.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
No, that's not a vowel, is it?
Sometimes.
Sometimes. Ronz.
Yes.
Ronz. We're recording this on a Friday. Good Friday. If you're, I don't know, does anybody else other than the Catholics call it Good Friday?
It's all right.
Everybody who's looking towards the weekend calls it Good Friday. I
mean, religiously. Let me ask you a question, Ronz.
Sure.
I'll ask Guy the same question. Ronz, were you raised by any particular religion?
Actually, a few.
That's intriguing.
It is. I think at one point, and I could be wrong about this, the memory's kind of fading here and there, is that my dad wanted to be a rabbi at one point. And so he was raised Roman Catholic, switched over, and he was learning to read and speak in Hebrew. Well, my dad left, my mom took over, and I was raised Roman Catholic. So when people go, what denomination or what religion do you follow? I say, well, a little bit of both. It's part Catholic, part Jewish. So it's a cashew. It's all fucking nuts to me. Right. But yeah, that's the way
so when people ask you, okay, let me try it. Let me ask you.
Yeah.
What religion are you?
Non-denominational, actually.
Okay. Now go ahead and ask me that question.
All right. What religion are you? Not that it's scripted.
Fucking business. None of your fucking business. Can't you come up with a better conversation than that? I hate people who talk about religion. Okay, well, sorry.
Why do you hate people that talk about religion?
I think that it's a very it's a hot button, and I think you should really only, in my opinion, you should only talk about religion with people who are philosophical about religion and open to hearing all different types of viewpoints on religion. Or you should only talk about religion with people who are in the same denomination as you.
I would consider myself open to all viewpoints. I really would. I've had this conversation before.
That's what I'm saying. Having a conversation with you would be okay.
Well, thank you.
That's what I'm saying. Having a conversation about religion with my older brother would not be okay.
Why is that?
Because he's a Baptist minister who was raised Roman Catholic.
See, I also like a good sermon. If you can keep me intrigued, I'm willing to listen to you. Unlike the Roman Catholics, when you go to their sermons or whatever, their masses, it's boring. I mean, it's an aerobic exercise. Other comedians have said that too. It's up, down, up, down. Then for your time, you get a drink of wine and a flavorless cookie.
Those are actually called Jesus snacks.
Jesus snacks.
All right, now let me ask you the same question, Sky.
Sure.
Sort of.
Sort
Do
of.
you feel like? Well, it's an odd question for me to ask as his father because I wouldn't say that I raised them a specific way. In other words, I did not cram Catholicism down their throats.
Okay.
No. Yeah, I mean, I would agree because every so often I would have to ask you like what we were. And I mean, sometimes I still forget. So that's pretty accurate. Because, I mean, sometimes I just
I never
forget.
tell you what you are. I don't say that that's what you are.
Well, our family, I don't know, because I don't know. You asked me any question about that? Like,
Go ahead, try it. Why don't you try that question then?
okay, wait, repeat the question.
Well, you said over the years you've asked us what we are.
Yeah,
I don't
so
recall ever saying what you were. If you were to
we're
say, try the question again. Go ahead, try the question.
okay. So, what religion is our family?
Okay, that's a different question.
That's the one I always ask.
Okay, so our family, if you're talking about the grander scheme, if you're talking about I would say that our family stems from, is not a patriarchal family. I would say that ours is matriarchal. In other words,
Yeah.
my mom is the head of the family. Even if my dad thinks that he's the head of the family, he's clearly not the head of the family.
Pretty
Okay.
accurate.
I actually really do think that he thinks that he's the head of the family, which is bizarre.
I don't know if he does.
No,
He doesn't act like it.
You think that he's finally come to the realization that he's not the head of the family?
I mean, he doesn't really act like the head of the family. He just kind of hangs and chills out.
Okay,
Well,
so
it's sort of like the matriarchal, the woman of the head of the household pulls the strings. As I tell my wife, she's the brains. I'm the muscle. Everybody thinks I'm in charge. I'm like, I am not in charge. My wife.
everybody
takes
thinks
out
you're
the
in
winner.
charge.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Wow. So these are people that know you outside of the dojo.
See, I wasn't going to mention that. I wasn't. I wasn't going to mention that. And what do? You
Well,
go ahead and
so
mention it.
let me answer this guy's question. Let me answer Skylar's question then. Our family, if you go straight down the family tree before it branches, is Catholic.
I hope
Yeah.
it branches.
I'm just saying before it branches because once it branches, it gets bizarre. Once it branches off into my brother, then it is Baptist. My older
Okay.
brother.
So
Well,
I
it's
didn't
sort
know
of-
that.
It's
Once
sort
it
of like-
branches off into my younger brother, I think that he's still Catholic.
I
I'm
would
not
assume.
sure. I assume so as well. And then once it branches down to me, which is my branch, the strongest branch, if you will, or the strongest, part of the tree, there is no specific religion or religious beliefs that I've pushed on my children.
And I'll back you up on that because I'm the same way with my son. I got to ask a question.
But I'm a better father because I have two.
It's true.
It's just more
Strength
means
in numbers.
you had more sex time. But I was asked the same question.
My
And
son asked you the same question?
no. Someone
I'm
asked
like,
me
that's
about
weird. Why are you asking Ron those personal questions?
yeah, why? But someone asked me about how I'm raising my son in a religious point, and I said,
Hey,
"Well,
ask me that question.
why are you? What question is that?
The one that you said that people ask you.
How are you raising your son in a religious view?"
None of your fucking business.
I agree. However,
This is pretty much going to be my whatever that's going to be my answer to the question.
I agree with that. I really do. My answer was a little bit more politically correct, though. And I said, you know what? I'm going to let my son decide. And they looked at me and they're like, what? I said, I'm going to let my son decide his own path. Right? And they're like, I'm not necessarily going to agree with whatever he chooses if it goes against my beliefs, but it's his choice and I'll respect that. And the person I was having a conversation looked at me, said, that's wrong. I said, well, you have a daughter, right? It's like, yeah. Did you force her to go to church? Or did you let her go to church on her own whatever? And it's like, and at that point, the conversation ended because the person could not dispute what I just said. I did not force religion on my son. I'm going to let him come to his own path if he wants to go to religion. Yes, I've taken him to church a few times, But beyond that, it's like, if you don't want to go, I'm not forcing you.
This is a good plan. You let them choose.
Yeah, oh,
So
definitely.
even if they decide, and it's like anything else, it's this journey of discovery, right? What if it's okay if he decides he's going to be Jewish, or maybe he does that for a little while? It's like, you know what, not my plan, not a good idea. Or if I'm going to be a Buddhist, or et cetera, et cetera. I think that you can't get wrapped up in what they choose and just let them make their own decision. It's like anything else; they're just
Yeah.
going to screw up all the time. We still screw up all the time, so what difference does it make
No, that's a good point. And
that we screw up all the time?
oh yeah, all the time. But when we
Yeah,
go
exactly.
to about talking about what do you believe in versus what I believe in versus what the world believes in, you're never going to have a right answer. No one ever is going to have the right answer because it's always going to conflict with somebody else. You're going to wake up and you're going to just be out there, and that's the way it's going to be.
Well, I only ask because today is Good Friday,
And
Which
every
means-
Friday is good that you're alive.
and which means that Sunday is Easter. What's your what in 30 seconds or less? What is your interpretation of Easter, Ronz? Go.
Looking for candy that the Easter Bunny hid. And I do not like the chocolate eggs that he hides.
I think you're eating some other kind of rabbit egg.
Yeah,
I didn't know it was going to be eggs.
Yeah, first of all, rabbits don't lay eggs, and if you're eating something that a rabbit laid, it's probably not a raisinette. Even though it looks
Ooh.
like one, it's not a raisinette.
Okay. What's your favorite Easter candy then?
Huh. I would have to say it's probably the Easter eggs that are like malted milk balls.
Ooh, yeah, I really do like those.
At least those are the ones I used to like. Now I don't know.
Cadbury
Most
eggs.
of the chocolate is too waxy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well,
It
they,
doesn't
they,
taste like,
don't they
doesn't taste
coat it
like
with a
quality.
canuba wax?
Yeah, it doesn't taste like quality chocolate. Is that what they do? Is that why it's so waxy?
Yeah. It's,
Oh.
yeah.
Ron, thanks for shedding some light there, man, because I did not know.
Yeah, I
did not
think
know
it's a
that.
canuba wax or
I'm going to
it's
take your word for it. I'm not even going to look it up because I'm going to say you're right.
Please look it up because I don't know people eating
No,
canuba
let's just-
wax or what.
This is-
I'm probably
listen,
saying it wrong.
What is the basis of this podcast? Is this not a podcast of idiots?
Yeah. Well, we pretend to
Hey,
be
if people
smart.
cannot pretend, if people can't believe what we say, then they're probably wise.
Oh yeah,
Okay,
definitely.
give me 30 seconds, Skylar. What is your opinion of Easter? What is your belief behind Easter? Go.
So when I think of Easter, there's always obviously Easter is a very important religious holiday, but I always now think of there's a comic book panel. I don't know what it's from. I don't know what issue, but it's Spider-Man's telling of Easter or somebody's telling of Easter with Spider-Man. But no, so it's them describing the story of Easter, and then like the final few panels is like Spider-Man moving the rock from in front of Jesus's tomb. And he's like, it's time to come out. It's been 3 days. And he's like, thanks, Spider-Man. And then like the last panel is like him with his arm around Jesus Christ. And he's got his thumb up and he says, don't do drugs. I don't know what comic it's from.
Oh my god!
Wow.
But it has to be. It's got to be in the 80s. That's got to be in
It's
the
like
80s.
it's like an 80s comic, and it's like
gotta
just
be.
one of those PSA whatever holiday comics. I can't find the original source, but I've seen and read so much of it, and that's just what I always think of now. It's just funny.
Okay, that went longer than 30 seconds, but it was totally worth it.
Yeah, it was definitely it's something.
That is definitely one of those things.
All right, let me get my Easter. Here's my Easter.
Yeah, what is your Easter?
Here we go. Go. My Easter. Ham. I always think of ham. And I always wonder why Easter isn't the bigger holiday than Christmas. And I always wonder why we celebrate the days before Jesus' resurrection when that should be a time of mourning.
Yeah, he's dead.
He got put up on a cross. And
Well,
then
that's easy enough to.
I'm not done. I had 8 seconds left. I had 8 seconds left.
Well, you just blew it.
We
You
should be
people.
actually celebrating Sunday when he rises from the dead.
How do you
And
know
that
it was
should
a
be-
Sunday?
That should be the bigger deal than Christmas. Oh well, we know the dates are wrong. We know that. That's everybody knows that. If you actually believe that he rose from the dead on a Sunday or that he was born in December, you got it all historically wrong. If you believe he was born the first, apparently there's this really good. I want to get this book. I heard about it on NPR, and I think I'm going to get the title wrong, but I'm going to look it up and find it. It was written by this guy who was raised I believe he was raised Catholic, and then he went to become a Catholic priest and decided not to do that. But it's like he wrote a book. It's called something like The Day Jesus Became a God or something like that. It sounds like a really good book, which is interesting because when I took this world religion class in college, the guy who taught our class, and this was bizarre, the guy who taught our class actually was trained at the Vatican to be a priest.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And he made it all the way through and decided not to become a priest, which makes you wonder, what did he learn during his training at the Vatican that all of a sudden at the end he decided, you know what? And he's not Catholic anymore.
I think it was the lack of sex. The celibacy sucks.
Everybody probably thinks it's like, it's like he couldn't get past like the touching children thing, but in reality he just put on the robe. He's like, what material is this? Silk?
Wow,
He's like,
way
I'm
to
out.
go, Sky. Make it dark. I mean, I thought I was going with the off-brand humor here, but my God.
No, I mean,
wow.
that's just
I honestly feel relieved that he went there because generally that's where I go, and everybody gets mad at me.
Children? You got to be fucking kidding me.
No, I'm going to. That's what God, you took it the wrong way, Ronz. What I'm saying is that's where my joke and my bust on the Catholic Church goes.
I mean, it's factually,
Well, all the evidence, you've got your, you can look out to your son's window. I mean, I don't know. You put 2 and 2 together, you might get 9. But okay, we'll move on from that.
Well, the only reason I brought this up is because we are podcasting on Good Friday.
You mentioned that.
And let's switch the subject. The podcast itself will be released on Easter Sunday when I get out of work.
So I've got to work on the graphics and everything.
I'll be working that day, and yeah.
By the way, I want to mention thank you for that technical note when you go, that green is not working or whatever, because when I make the banners for the podcast thing, you're like, that's not working. That's great. You could tell me before, not after, but hey, I'm willing to work with the note.
I don't see it before you publish it, though.
Oh, okay.
But I don't see it before. Let's just put it this way. Let me just say this. Ronz, you are doing a great job on the website.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate it. Let me throw a shout out to Carrie and my son, RJ.
Nope, not allowed.
Not allowed. Carrie comes in, and what I'll do is I'll say, hey, what do you think of this? And she's like that. And after I type something out, she'll go, change that. Why? Well, she went to college, and she had to write term papers. She goes, that's not good. She is a severe grammar Nazi when it comes down to it. And I'll ask RJ, hey, what do you think of this font? Because he likes to program with me. And I'm like, that looks okay. So
you bring up a good point. If you're a Nazi listening to this podcast, please don't.
I said grammar Nazi. Nazi.
If you are a Nazi listening to this podcast, we know what you've done.
And we honestly don't need you listening to our podcast. But if you know some non-Nazi folks, if you have, it would be safe to say to have your Jewish friend listen, but I'm assuming you don't have any, and so please stop listening to our podcast. I just wanted to say you've done a great job on the podcast, Ronz, and soon, even though it's been a social media icon since almost the beginning, for some reason we still can't get our Facebook page up, but Ronz and I will work on
that. That is partially my fault because with everything that's going on in the world, we won't discuss about it. And I have been just kind of being lazy on that part. And when I do get motivated and I start to post stuff, I run into issues. Of course, we discussed that off the air. And I can take care of that tonight. One of the things that I would really like to do that is once we start doing that, get the comments, whatever word, get the feedback from the people, because it's starting to take off. I love that. And thank you for the updates. How many listens did we get? We said 78?
This week?
Yeah, something like that.
No, this week we have had 227 plays.
Dude, did we stomp the old record?
The old record? No, I've had more than that in 1 week, but it's a good week.
It's a pretty good week.
Pretty good week.
Crush me.
Just fucking crush me. No, you knew it. Oh, hello. It's me, Andrew. Hello. You're on the air with the Slaptail Squad.
No.
Hey, watch this, Ronz. You see that little microphone in the corner? Yeah. You can hit that and it will mute you.
I didn't realize.
What? You
Oh,
didn't realize
shit.
you hit that?
I'm
Is
sorry.
Chris on mute here?
No, I didn't realize
No,
that
look on the left
was
hand.
going on.
Hey, Zencaster, thank you for your medium that we can do remote podcasts because we are remotely podcasting because of the current situation in the world.
I agree. So let me
But
tell
there
you.
is this in the left-hand corner. You see your name. You see your name there. Or
I do.
Ron?
I do.
There's a little hand like you're waving at us. That's if you want to ask a question in class, I guess. But there's a little microphone underneath that, and see Skylar's waving. Thank you. Right underneath that is a little microphone.
Okay.
And if you want to mute yourself.
Well, how the hell do I know if someone's going to call me?
After the first ring, what am I, a psycho?
Yeah.
No, the word is psychic.
Yeah, the way it's set up is.
How's that supposed to know somebody's going to call? The Ronz.
This is actually my son's office. I'm not in mine. Right?
Hey, let me ask you this question then.
Okay.
It's your son's office.
Right.
Now, whose house is it?
It's technically my wife's and I.
Okay. But way to be political.
I think so.
Way to show some teamwork.
Yeah.
Then it is not your son's office.
Well, let me put it to you like this then. Let me flip it.
Oh, you're not putting it to me, first of all. You never put it to me.
Since Sky is home because of the current situation in college.
That which shall not be named.
So when he's downstairs, is that his bedroom or his studio?
That is my room.
That's his room that I live in rent free.
That is he habitates rent free.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, but do you enjoy all the privacies that go along with it?
I mean, yeah. I've only been living here a little while longer, so it's an odd situation.
Yes.
Why is it an odd situation? He can't see you into the room all the time?
It's an odd situation that I'm even back here.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we know why. I mean, the fallout because of the current situation.
Right. Would you like to know what city is the top city this week?
Sure.
Or plays in the world?
Sure.
Can you guess?
Budapest.
It is Mountain View. Mountain View, California again. You are number one. Some people in Mountain View, California apparently really like Beaveman and the Doc and the Slaptail Squad.
Yay.
I like that.
I like that. Yeah, Mountain View. I can hear you typing. There's this little microphone.
Yeah, that I can mute.
There's
That's
this
Silicon
microphone.
Valley. That's in Santa Clara County.
It's pretty exciting, though, isn't it?
It is. No.
Now, you can look at the conspiracy theorist of me. My son knows me pretty well. Don't you think,
Yeah.
Skylar? I would say... I would say that me and my son are pretty close.
Unlike the adopted children you have out there that don't know you that well.
I would say that... Well, no,
we've been friends for 22 years.
My son is very important to me, and he is like my friend. I don't know if it's okay to say that your son's your friend, but mine is.
No. I think that's a great, healthy relationship. That really is.
I'm just saying that my son knows me pretty well. Take a deep dive into your father's brain and think about the flip side of him being... One side is, hey, I'm really happy that the people in Mountain View listens to me. Think about now the other flip side of that is knowing what's in Mountain View. Is there any other way that I would think about having people from Mountain View listen to our podcast?
If I had to go like for something, it's just that like the people who are at like, I don't know if Google's in Mountain View, but
it's Silicon Valley. It's one of the starts.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
Silicon Valley. So yeah, just, people really bad at hiding that they're monitoring people could just be racking up the plays.
That's even better for us, though.
It is.
Because if you just want to listen to us and see what conspiracy theories that we may be talking about.
Wow, Rod, you actually dove into my brain also.
Yeah, even better.
Because that's the flip side. There's the one side of me that's like, hey, this is awesome. Mountain View, California listens a lot. The other side of me is like, wait a minute.
Even
why
better,
would
though,
they be listening to my podcast?
As long as it's not like, Quantico, Virginia, I think you're fine.
You might be having something going on, too, that they haven't thought about. And they're like, he's onto something. right? What if Jesus was with Spider-Man at the time of his death?
Well, I don't think Skylar can take credit for that because it was written in a comic.
Yeah, I can't take credit for that. As much
You
as
can
I
bring it into
would
light.
love to. As much as I would love to bring that, as my own work in surrealist humor, somehow somebody thought of it first, and it's disappointing.
Okay, before we get to our topic, I just want to read this little passage from the New York Times real quick, just to see what's your response to it.
Okay.
And this has to do with the current pandemic going on with COVID-19 or SARS-CoV-2 or whatever you want to call it. Apple and Google plan to embed a feature iPhones and Android devices that will help track the virus. Do we think that that's good, or is that a violation of our privacy?
I don't even know what they mean by that. What are they how are you gonna, they'll track if I'm sick by
I'll read it to you.
phone?
In one of the most far-ranging attempts to halt the spread of the coronavirus, Apple and Google said they were building software into smartphones that would tell people if they were in recent contact with someone who was infected with the virus. In other words, because the virus is a reportable illness, I'm assuming, is how they could do it. The technology giants said they were teaming up to release the tool within several months, building it into the operating systems of the billions of iPhones and Android devices around the world that would enable the smartphones to constantly log other devices they get close to, enabling contact tracing of the disease. With the tool, infected people would notify a public health app that they have the coronavirus, which would then alert phones that had recently come in proximity with that infected person's device.
Okay. So it just sounds like a more I don't know, it sounds like that thing where it's you get an STD, you're like, great, I gotta go tell all these people. It just sounds like that on a bigger scale.
Yeah, except in this case, it would be if you walked right by somebody at the grocery store, and if they registered on this app, it's going to tell you on your phone that you walked by somebody who has the virus.
I feel like
I feel like that's not necessary.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I want to call it profiling. I don't know if that's correct.
You are correct.
Sure, I think it is
exactly
profiling.
what it is. That is a conspiracy theorist's wet dream. What you're talking about.
All right. Well, I just wanted to read that. Keep that in your head, there, Ronz.
Wow.
We might have to talk about that later.
I you know what? A shout out to my son who built his own computer, and he's got a triple monitor, so I can do a little bit more than most people when doing.
So stop watching porn. We told you last time, don't watch porn while we're doing this podcast.
What?
It's creepy and it's weird.
What I'm double backing on what you said.
Double
about
bagging.
What? Yeah.
Double bagging. I'm not familiar with that one.
Well,
is that where you use a rubber band around your testicles?
Wow. You've seen that before?
He didn't say no. He didn't say no.
No. But you're right. I mean, that is
a
theory. That is just a nightmare.
Well, hold on to that one.
I'm gonna have to read up on that.
Yeah. All right. I'm gonna switch over to our topic of today because I really want to get into it. I'm excited about it because I really want to hear
theories. No,
I really want to hear what the Ron has to say about this one because I'm excited. Okay. Well, I'm gonna switch it up. I love television.
Awesome.
Do you remember what would you say your favorite TV shows are? Give me 3, maybe 4 of your top TV shows from being a kid, Ron.
Oh, geez, there were so many. I was into sci-fi shows a lot. I like Battlestar Galactica. Logan's Run was one of them. Anything to do with sci-fi that kept me interested. Comedy was always good, but I gravitated to more adult humor than just the kid stuff. And just to regress, I did like animation a little bit more, but I didn't like it that much. So I'm really kind of, as far as TV shows, sci-fi, some animation. That's about it. I couldn't tell you what shows they were. Really, what I liked.
I'll give you mine because if I had to go by age, it would get there'd be a shitload of them. I'm just going to go with my top ones.
Okay.
For comedy, I think I'm probably going to go with Mork and Mindy.
Awesome.
Mork and Mindy, Gilligan's Island, and what was the other one I was going to say? Mork and Mindy, Three's Company. Those are my 3. And then for action, would have to be Magnum P.I.
Now, if you're going to throw an action, A-Team for me then.
Well, yeah, A-Team
and
was good too.
MacGyver.
But I only had 4, so I went with 4.
See, on the action part, I thought it was more comedy, but I would go with MacGyver and the A-Team.
Yeah, well, they were good because they were comedic. There were funny aspects of it for sure. The whole dynamic between Mr. T and Murdoch,
but MacGyver and A-Team was all about teamwork and how they could get things done. They didn't work.
MacGyver, team of one.
No, MacGyver worked with the team, the Phoenix Foundation,
as a lone guy.
Well, yeah, I guess so, if you want to look at it that way.
Anyway,
right, Kai, what's yours?
Skylar, go.
So if we do like top 3, all my favorite shows, most of my favorite shows now are animated, but the one I watched, the original Pokemon series,
That's a good one.
The Simpsons is one that I still watch like every day. And then, I don't know, I watched a lot of SpongeBob. Those are like the top 3 animated shows I probably watched like as a child, that and Looney Tunes.
Oh, yeah.
And then, those are like the big ones. There's a lot of like, I watched like Saturday morning cartoons and all that stuff. So that was mainly like Pokemon and Looney Tunes and whatever else was on at that time. But those are like the main ones.
Yeah, I think we've totally ruined TV forever because we don't have Saturday morning cartoons. And we have more than 4 networks.
Yeah. I often explain this to my family. It's like, when you want to watch something when we were growing up, you had to wait for a year if it came back on or in a rerun.
Oh, yeah. It's worse to have a cliffhanger and then they don't come back.
Yeah, and it's
what the fuck happened?
Yeah, and now with the internet, you don't have to wait. You can go back. Like I was a big fan back in the 90s of The Critic with John Lovitz. That cartoon was just hilarious to me, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's a good one.
I forgot about that. Yeah, I forgot about that.
And I love that one. There was another one with Jason Alexander with the duck. And I can't think of the name. But it was just this adult humor, which was just great. And then if you go back to the earlier stuff, South Park, when it was first coming out, they just bashed everybody, and it was just hilarious. And then,
God, do you remember Dr. Katz?
No,
the guy who was a psychologist, and there was always comedians. There was always comedians on his show.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
He always had comedians on his show that were like laying on the couch that he was analyzing.
Oh, I only saw bits of it. I never saw entire episodes of it.
Yeah,
but I did like. Once again, it goes gravitating back to what the adult humor that I liked. Right, like Family Guy when it first came out, it was so politically incorrect that it was hilarious, and that's what made it so watchable. And when Fox canceled it, it got its reboot from Adult Swim because everybody started watching it, and they're like, "We fucked up. Let's put it back on the air," and it got better.
Well, I think that if you look at TV that's not animated, for example, like stuff that's animated, they can do whatever they want. That's kind of the cool thing about animation, right? If they want to make somebody fly, they can make them fly. And you don't think too much about it. But in regular television, I think what's interesting is they're still doing all these things that supposedly would happen to you in real life, but really it wouldn't happen to you in real life. And I think what I'm going to start doing is I'm watching this show right now, and it's called Community.
Okay.
And I think it was released 2007 or something like that.
Somewhere around there. So there's like 6 or 7 seasons, whatever. I've already watched a crap load of them because it was on network television where they release an episode like every week for 22 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm watching it and I'm going, oh yeah, I can see how this relates to real life. But again, there's these things that happen in it, aside from the goofy stuff that's supposed to be normal stuff. I'm like, I should start writing these things down that they say happen in these people's lives, and they act like it's a normal thing, but it's really not normal, and it wouldn't happen in real life. And I think that would be kind of interesting. For example, there was this one where they were talking to this character, and he was having like a mental breakdown, and their psychology professor was talking with them, like having a little counseling session, basically. And then later on in the show, he says, hey, I went to your dorm room and I found this Christmas card on your floor from your mother, and it explains why you're having this mental breakdown. And of course, they all act like that's a normal thing. But in my head, I'm going, okay, even if I was a psychologist and this was my patient, what world would I actually be going into their dorm room to find a card in their room?
Well, I think the card was secondary. They were going into the dorm room for something.
That's not kind of where my mind went, but what I'm saying is there's these things that happen in these shows that are supposed to be sort of not based on actual characters, but they're supposed to be relatable to what's happening in our lives.
Well, it's kind of like a mini, because there's always that, the one that popularized it was Happy Days. It's the jumping the shark moment where it's like the show drifts over into something so unbelievable that you're like, I don't know if this is even the same show. So it's kind of like mini moments of that where there's just these breaks in reality where you're like, yeah, this is about as believable as the Fonz for some reason jumping a shark tank. But,
yeah, I agree. It's sort of like with what Sky said, but from their point of view, it happened. From our point of view, what the hell happened? Why would that happen?
Well, I think it's a different way of watching television. I think it's most people wouldn't think that that's bizarre or out of the ordinary. So I think what I want to do is I want to start kind of watching these shows, and whenever something like that happens, I kind of want to write it down. Because I'm sure most people aren't watching that show and going, well, that's not believable. Why would he go into his room and find this card?
yeah.
What was he doing going into his room? Why would he be in his room?
They usually just expect you to be more of a passive watcher. So sometimes they try to like get away with stuff is kind of what I think it is.
Look at the big brain on Sky, putting that degree in film and TV and media to use.
Well, I agree with him. That's what he's saying. But I think that it would be fun to go through and start pulling that shit out.
But then,
if these are shows
taking away the magic of what you're watching.
No, I'm not. I'm having fun because think about it, right? These shows. There's how many different genres of television shows are there, right? You've got reality TV shows.
Well, I agree, but that's sort of like reading a comic book. Saying, well, Superman really can't fly. That's not plausible.
Yeah, but that's a comic.
Well, okay, what about when he was a serial or a TV show?
They're supposed to be about five normal people, et cetera, with all these goofy things that happen. And that's the point also, is that it wouldn't be a television show about normal people. Here's my television show day. Let's say you wanted to base a television show on me. Okay?
All right, who do we get to play you?
Fuck, I don't know. I don't care.
How about Tom Selleck? He's got the mustache.
John Travolta.
John Travolta's good.
Old. First of all, Tom Selleck's too old. He's too tall. He's too good looking.
Well, okay, he's got you beat on all three parts there.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. He's not Hispanic. So no,
race has nothing to do with it, right?
He's going to play me.
Get Mario Lopez.
Mario Lopez. Yeah.
Anyway, the point is, here's my life.
How about Lance Bass from NSYNC?
Let's take my day off. All right.
On Good Friday.
On Good Friday, I rolled out of bed at 9 something. Okay, and then I watched TV until almost 11, and then I worked out, ate something, watched some more TV, went to the grocery store, came back home, and set up for this podcast. Now this is real life. I'm not the only one doing this. How interesting of a TV show is that?
It's the interactions in between what you were doing that would make it interesting.
The interactions between myself and my iPad? Because that's about what it was.
You'd have to do like a show within the show where we're just watching what you watch, but make what you're watching interesting to everybody else at home.
South Park addressed that issue with the troll issues, right? People doing stuff and how they were trolling other people.
Yeah.
Right? And that's exactly what you're doing. You're doing your life. And if your life is boring, how do you make it interesting for the viewer? Right? Or we can make it a reality show.
No, I already said reality shows suck. And why do reality shows suck? They film hours and hours and hours and hours of footage in order to get one show. Therefore, it is not truly a reality show. They're just sitting around waiting for something to happen. Or worse, when you look at shows like that fucking show that my my kid and my wife like, Dance Moms, that shit is made up. It's not real.
Yeah,
That's
it's
not
very
a
made up.
reality show.
But there were, back in the day, there was a comedy show that I really liked. And it was a talk show, but it really wasn't a talk show. And it was hilarious.
And it was called...
Oh, geez.
That's a dumb name for a show.
Dick something.
Oh, jeez.
Dick's...
Yeah.
I bet my guess is it was not called Dick something.
It wasn't called Dick something. But the thing is, as you're watching this, it was set up like a talk show and everything, but it was just hilarious. And he goes into cutaways and he says, if you have ADD, and then he cups his mouth and shouts, if you have ADD, please give us a call. And I'm like, that's hilarious, because there is someone who has ADD who thinks this is a real show or not, but turns around and he does exactly what you would do to get somebody's attention who's not really paying attention. And I thought that was some hilarious. And the more I watched this show,
You called the number.
No, the episodes, the more he was just like, he was a parody of Phil Donahue, Sally Jesse Raphael, Oprah Winfrey, a few others, and he was just over the top, right? And every time he would say something, the audience would boo, and then he would look at the audience and say, no, that's not how we're doing this. We're doing it like that, just like it would be in a reality talk show. So your reality show could not be a reality show about you being in reality, if that makes sense.
No, it doesn't. Let me pitch my show.
Okay.
All right. Okay, here's my show.
I thought that was your show, but okay.
No, that wasn't my show. I was asking a question. I was making a point. No, that's what I'm saying. That's why reality shows are bullshit. That's why I say most of these shows that are based on what are supposed to be people going about their day and it's supposed to be in relatable situations, real relatable situations, not every Magnum PI. You know how many people, if we watched Magnum PI, which is now on Amazon for free, which I kind of want to watch it. If we watched all the seasons, all the episodes of Magnum PI as a private investigator, you know how many people he's killed? You kill one person. You kill one person. I'm pretty sure that they're not going to let you just keep being be a private investigator and just keep killing people.
Even unless it's justified killing.
But once you've had a repeat of killing people, I think that it probably is going to end for you.
Unless it's justified every time.
Okay, Ron, seriously. Watch the show. He's killed more than 2 people in the show.
Did they deserve it?
Oh my God. You're so missing the point. There's nobody who's going to be a private investigator who's going to be, the cops are going to look at him and go, you know what? Either you're like the bringer of doom or you have the worst luck in the world, but I think that this is a profession you should probably stop. Justified or not, they're not going to let you. He's got more deaths than John Wayne Gacy on his hands. Don't think so. All right, here's my show. I tried to write about something that I would know, or I'm going to come up with an idea about something that you know, because if you don't, then you're going to have a bunch of advisors on your show, and that's probably going to be, you're going to have them anyway, but here's the point. My show is called Greg. That's the name of the show. It's about a guy, middle-aged guy, goofy, lanky, if you will. Picture an adult version of Shaggy, the original Shaggy from Scooby-Doo.
All right, Casey Kasem.
That was the voice of Shaggy, not the actual persona of Shaggy. I'm talking about Shaggy himself, the character. As an adult, got a beard, he's lanky, pretty athletic, pretty fit, very laid back, and he's a registered nurse in an emergency room. So you're going to see episodes of him interacting in the emergency room, very laid back, very stoner-like. And when he's at home, living his normal life, he has a dog who is either a golden retriever or a yellow lab.
Okay.
And the dog talks, but only to him. So we're not really sure if the dog actually talks or if it's all in Greg's head.
Okay.
But the dog is very wise. In other words, Greg does dumb shit, and the dog's very wise and philosophical. It makes good points whenever he does something. So the timing of the show will be, there's going to be a lot of times where he's doing stuff in the emergency room, and there's going to be times when that's not going to be like the main focus of it, but you are going to know that Greg is an RN because he introduces himself as Greg RN. He's like, hey man, I'm Greg RN. I'm going to be your nurse tonight and stuff.
Okay, so this sounds like a mashup between Family Guy and Scrubs. I like it.
But it's just going to be zany adventures of things like maybe he'll come into work one day, and there's going to be other characters also. Like there's going to be this character who's like a really well sculpted, handsome Hispanic RN.
Sort of like Tom Selleck or Mario Lopez.
I don't think Tom Selleck is not Hispanic. Anyway, and he kind of jokes around with that guy also. But he looks to him like as an older mentor type for some reason, even though he's like a stoner type. And he'll come in maybe one day and he's like, oh man, I can't believe all the girls I've slept with are on the same shift as me. Because he's a nurse, but there's lots of hot nurses. So he's like dating a bunch of them, and he's dated a bunch of them. And on this particular episode, there happens to be 3 of the women that he's dated on his shift at the same time as him.
Wow.
And they don't care because it's been a while. They don't care anymore, but it's all in his head that he gets wrapped up in these situations. And of course, the good-looking Hispanic nurse is like, dude, you're the one who slept with all of them. They don't seem to care. You're the only, it's in your head. And maybe he'll even like panic so much that he goes and calls his dog for advice about what happens going on.
That's what I was going to say. I was going to put on my executive hat and say, how can we make the dog become the wisdom of the show?
Well, that is what it is. The dog is not. The dog is clever, funny, but he's very wise.
Would he be able to talk to the dog while he's at work in his head?
No.
Okay.
No, because if he talks to the dog while he's at work in his head, then you're going to presume that the dog doesn't talk.
Or he's mentally unstable.
Right.
I like that.
I want it to be like where the audience questions, well, maybe this dog does talk.
But then again, if you have the audience question not only the dog's talk, but his mental and mental stability, let me say that word without stuttering, then how is he going to react at work when the shit hits the fan?
Well, that's why he has to also depend on the people around him, your second cast of characters. It's not just him and the dog.
Okay.
It's not like you can take a break every 5 seconds in an emergency and trauma room and go, oh, I got to go call my dog.
No, I understand that. So how much are we going to disassociate the character from reality so the audience catches on? So it's believable?
Well, that's the thing you said, right? You don't really have to make it believable.
Well, no, I don't. But, you're going to get some nutcase out there that wants to make it believable.
Well, that's the whole point of keeping them guessing. That's the whole point of clever writers, right? I only got to come up with the idea for the TV show. Is that not what I said? Am I not pitching a television show?
You are, but then you got to back it up. If you want to
don't.
Yes, you do.
What are you talking about? You're kidding me? All I got to do is write a pilot. That's all I got to do.
That means you have to back it up.
No, I don't. What shows did you ever watch, Ron, that answered all the questions that you had?
Not all the questions, but you had to pitch the pilot to make it believable, right?
No, I had to pitch the pilot to make it presentable for a television show.
Wouldn't that make it believable?
Is it? Does it?
Let's ask the film
How
student.
about like when you watch the Wonder Years and all that stuff happens in the Wonder Years and that he's imagining? Nobody questions that on the point in times when he's doing stuff that he's not imagining.
Well, you don't want to bring a big FU to the audience either. Sort of like saying Elsewhere's, when the ending turned out to be, guess what? A kid imagining everything in a snow globe. Do you remember that ending?
No, because I didn't watch it.
Yeah, neither did I, but I do remember it. I when I was reading up on stuff, it's like that was a big FU to the audience.
So then what question do you want me to ask? If I'm pitching this to you, then what question are you asking exactly?
How do you make?
You didn't really ask a question.
No, were you asking for notes then?
No, what I'm saying is you never asked a question. You just started to say that. Well, you would have to prove what? Prove what? What am I trying to prove? What question are you asking that as an executive who's I'm pitching this to then?
Is it going to be relatable on some level to the audience, or a certain type of audience?
Well, that's up to the people who are. You wouldn't know that until you pitch it, or you have the statisticians look at it and see which characters relate to this age group or this demographic.
Well, I guess the
wouldn't know.
follow-up question is, how are you, what's the relationship to what's your target audience then? What is your target audience
My
to make
target
this
audience
relatable?
is everybody. That's always the target audience.
Well, sort of like Scrubs was more towards the college set in medical school, but it was centered around the medical field. So they had a target audience of anybody that's in college. The narrower scope, once again, let me speak again soberly, is that it was people who could relate to it in the medical field.
I don't think that's true. I think that you're thinking about what they end up with or what they think they're going to end up with. The target audience for a television show is everybody. You won't know what your target audience is until you start getting data back.
Well, I won't say that completely is true. Let's go to the
Let's
film
flip over
guy.
to Skylar then and see what he says.
Okay.
Am I targeting everybody, or am I targeting white 45-year-olds with beards who work in emergency rooms as nurses and hoping that my show will be successful?
It really depends, because if you go on, like, not all shows know exactly what their demographic is. They kind of have a plan of what they want to do, and maybe they'll sketch out, like, this is what we want to say in season 1. Because a lot of times shows take a long time to find their audience. Like, you might have an idea in your head of who you want to watch this show, but then an entirely other demographic could, pick it up because they identified with something else. So it's kind of both. It's not a bad idea to have a demographic in your head, but it is a bad idea to try and just limit yourself to that demographic, if that makes sense.
No, it does. So, it does. That's 2 years of college for you right there. I like that. Keep up the good work.
You want a wide appeal, but you also want to, once you've got that wide appeal, you want to start crafting your characters more and make it so that you do have these people who are relatable to whoever is ending up watching your show, I guess.
No,
that's why you don't have a writer's room of one.
It makes sense.
You usually have hopefully a diverse writer's room.
So
you're going to develop characters as you go along. If you get the season, if you get a pilot, great. You develop the pilot and you try to go from there.
That's exactly what Sky's saying. Once you get the green lit for the pilot, then you can start to flesh out the characters.
Yeah, but that's what I said too. But I don't think I'm going to sit there. They're not going to ask me, oh, well, what's your demographic? I don't know. I want everybody to watch it.
They might.
I'm going
to tell you my demographic is going to be, I don't know. I don't think 4-year-olds will enjoy this show.
Well, yeah, that's pretty obvious.
I'm going to say it's from 9 to 90.
Well, they might, the
Monopoly.
9-year-olds, or I should say the 5 to 15-year-old kids might relate to Scooby-Doo and Shaggy and see it that way. And they might say, hey, Shaggy's now a nurse.
Well, it's interesting that you kind of brought it up that way, because even though I said he was going to look like Shaggy, sound like Shaggy, et cetera, it's almost like a mature version of the relationship between Shaggy and Scooby.
Oh, interesting.
Whereas the difference being, of course, for some reason, we all know Scooby's a talking dog, and nobody finds it bizarre. In this instance, we don't know if Greg's dog actually does talk.
Right.
Well,
we don't know if Greg is manifesting, this persona on his dog, and the dog is actually him in his head, or if the dog. Here's the other thing: does the dog itself actually exist?
Wow.
Like, how he could have friends over, and the dog could be around, but maybe nobody's petting the dog, et cetera, and make people think, well, is there even a dog?
Right.
Wow.
So there's more than one disbelief. It's more than one thing you're looking at. One thought process is, well, does the dog really talk? Is Greg crazy? Or the other thing is there even a dog?
So once again, you're really twisting things around to make the audience think. I like that.
It's good.
I like that, yeah. All right. I would like to see how it plays out. And when you sober up, let us know. Because I think that's really good.
That was my pitch.
It was good.
I like that. Let's greenlight that for a pilot, and we'll see if it goes. By the way, you have to put a disclaimer.
Oh, yeah. Nobody can steal my idea. That's my idea. And any resemblance to persons either living or dead that I have described in my show is purely coincidental. Wink.
Yes, it is now Friday, April 10th, 2020. So if anything comes out after this, we now have physical proof.
Wink, wink.
Wink, wink.
Well, I might be the muscular Hispanic nurse that's his friend.
Who looks a lot like Mario Lopez or Tom Selleck.
I don't even know who Mario Lopez is.
He's Mario Lopez.
I'm pretty sure I have a cousin named Mario Lopez. I might have two.
He was on Saved by the Bell.
That's him?
Well, he's one of them.
Oh, he's way too handsome to play me. No,
He's done a bunch of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Way too. Even at his
I
age
prefer
now.
George Lopez.
His head is too big. My head is not that big.
Well, no, not to play you. I just over Mario Lopez.
Oh, well, sure. All right, who wants to go next?
I will.
Oh, this is going to be great.
Yeah.
I'm going to preface this by saying this. I'm going to say this is going to be amazing. I'm excited. Here, I'm very excited. Let me tell you why I'm excited.
Why are you excited?
I'm not only excited about the idea that Ronz is going to have, but his clear, concise thought process is what gives me the most joy.
Right.
Go ahead, Ron.
So I thought about this all week, actually for the last 24 hours. So if it goes astray, it goes astray. And I thought every time I had an idea, I'm like, no, how can it not be a mashup of things? How can it be its own separate entity? And every conclusion I came up to was, crap, it's been done. So I thought, well, let's take the idea and flip it on its head and make it more modern. So it's about, let's say, 4 or 5 people, or 3 people, or 2 people. I haven't really fleshed it out yet. Trying to do a podcast every week. So the live center was around them doing a podcast. You know, they talk about it through the entire week. They trade notes. They have their separate lives, and then they come together and then they do a podcast and trying to get everything along that line. I thought that'd be great. Not like you could base it to make it look like a reality show and see how it goes. But, or I should say, however, make it a lot more funnier, I guess. Because, I mean, when we do the podcast, right, nothing is ever scripted, which is something I really like. And I figured that would be a great comedy show. Right. Any ideas?
Yes. Can you give us some like characters or something?
Oh, well, we've got the smart person there, of course. That would be me. Then we have the up and coming.
You are very intelligent.
I would like to think I am, but some people would say I'm not. Then we've got the
fuck those people.
Then we have the tech savvy person who goes, okay, let's get this done. But, you know, he's kind of a slacker. And it's
wow,
like, well,
you made the tech savvy person a slacker. That's kind of interesting way to go.
I didn't say he was. I said
it's It's an interesting way to go, though, because I don't think most people would do that.
Well, the thing is, how often can you crunch something and make it work, right? Once you start going on a website and everything, it doesn't take that much effort to put the effort into it. It's just that you have to stay up for about, let's say, 4 hours getting all the material ready, then you can crunch it through.
Okay, we'll keep going.
Then we have the person behind it, the brain. So everybody's a little bit of the brain. Everybody's a little bit tech savvy. But you got the one guy that's like, well, how do you want to take it? And then we would have, beyond that, we would have the other people behind it too, right? So we'd have a supporting cast, the main cast, sort of like when you watch Friends. They had the main cast, then they had the supporting cast, like the barista or the coffee guy, Gunther, who's always behind the scenes.
Oh, I don't remember him at all.
Right. And I was just watching something on the Young Ones. Do you remember the Young Ones back when MTV was on?
I actually did not watch any shows on MTV. I watched it when they had music videos, and then after that, once they started putting shows, I stopped watching it.
But the Young Ones was a really great comedy show. And what they would do is they had a character in the background, right, that never spoke, but you didn't know that person was in the background, and they had long hair. And the premise was that that person was just there, came to a party, stayed, and was just there, never went home. But it was like a supporting character that you never knew about that actually existed. So I figured a supporting cast, like, because, you've got Swan behind the scenes and in front. I've got my team behind the front and in the back that would support me. You've got Sky's support team behind him. So we have this main set of characters, and then we expand that, and we've got that sort of like, when Wood was on, and he says he would say something hilarious, and then you don't hear
I don't
from
remember that at all.
What's that?
I don't remember him saying anything hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah. But we haven't heard from him in a while. And
well, it's called the pandemic still. Yeah.
No, I understand that, but we haven't heard from him in a while. So would we consider him part of a supporting cast or the main cast? So when he shows back up, it's like, where have you been? I've been here all along.
So you would show these people leading their separate lives, and you would also show them interacting to make the podcast, and then maybe at the end you would actually show them doing the podcast.
Yeah, and then actually, and here's a follow-up to that, and actually releasing that podcast to the world. So it would have a tie-in on just about every platform.
Uh-huh. There's somebody out there doing that now, which I kind of find annoying, where they're covering every basis of it and they're making their show, what they're doing, actually a podcast also, which kind of annoys me.
Well, a lot of podcasters do that, right? They make their video, they release it, and then while they're doing their podcast, something that I've leaned towards too. But I mean, because of the pandemic that's going on, we can't do the video. We can do other things leading up to that, but because of the social distancing we have to practice, we can't really bring it all together like it should be, right? To jump it forward.
So how would you have, let me ask you this then, how would you have tied this all together? How would you make these, because you're going to have to do character development. Are you going to do like flashbacks in it to show how they all came together to do this podcast?
No, I'm just pitching the idea. I don't have to do character development. No.
It was just a question. I'm not saying that's I'm not saying that has anything to do with you getting the pitch or not. I'm saying, is there plans for this? Do you think that that's how you're going to do it? Or how did you show them coming together if they're from different, I mean, did they all work together?
Well, yeah.
How did they get together?
They would all have to have some point in common, right? And then we could even tie it into your show where we have...
no, I don't want you to tie it. Why would I want you to tie it into my show?
As a background character. So that way you get more people to watch your show.
No, fuck no. Why would I do that?
I don't know. Fame, fortune, money. Right? Yeah. Let the other people.
Every show doesn't have to be related to every other show.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right.
I mean, it's interesting once in a while when you do see stuff. They're like, oh, kind of like we see Parks and Rec, where some of the same characters are on that are on this other show. That are on this other show.
Oh, like Portlandia and their SNL, right? Yeah. I like that too. But for me also, in keeping in mind with how I would run the show, is I would also have something recurring in the background, right? That would totally be oblivious to everybody until you go back and rewatch the show. So that's the one thing. And in fact, the young ones actually did that, which I thought was amazing. They did a lot of different things, and at the end of the shows, their final season, they actually had a tie-in. They did like one frame would flash in something, and that would be it. So in the middle of something, you would see like a water spigot with a drop, and it would flash away real quick. And the tie-in to that was they were just doing that to see if anybody would pay attention, and also that if you went back and you rewatched the episode to see if you saw what you saw. They had to quit it though because people were complaining that they were subliminally telling him to buy products or do something bizarre.
Yeah, they probably were. But no, it is
However,
kind of cute. It is kind of cool when you do like not the secondary characters. You can use the main characters or whatever. Community did this on one of their shows.
okay.
The one guy, they had their regular show going on, but they could see shots in the background. I don't know what that's called, but like the one character was talking to this pregnant woman in the background. And then he was like touching her belly, and they were like laughing and stuff. And then the whole show goes on. And then later on in the show, you see him, they're sitting on a park bench, two of the main characters, and they're talking. And then a shot off to the left shows this truck with the gate open, and he's bending over the gate, and this lady's pushing out. She's birthing a baby, and he's helping her. And then like at the end, I think that he was like with the husband and wife, and they're like with the baby and stuff. And all that's going on in the background. You can't even, if you weren't paying attention, you wouldn't have noticed it.
Yeah, and the thing is, the tie-in with that flash frame, I don't know if that's the right terminology for it, was at the end of the run of the show, they actually had a tie-in that this guy put a little piece at the end saying, for all those who caught all those flash frames, right, they made me do it. And that was a complete tie-in, and it would completely explain everything. But yeah, I would love the background characters to do something. In fact, I remember.
Okay, so once again, I would say that
I like that.
This is a good idea. Not really well developed, but if we were in Pitchtown, I would say that he's gonna get it because he just has a general idea, and there's enough people that because the idea is so general that 50 people could give ideas to make a show.
No, not only that, it's more modern then too, right? Because you're keeping up with the technology, and it could be like a roundtable discussion every week where everybody's like, okay.
Because just because we listen to podcasts doesn't mean everybody listens to podcasts. There's plenty of people who don't know podcasts.
No. You're taking it on the podcast thing. I'm taking it. That's just the pitch, but everybody listens to some sort of media out there. The podcast is just the accumulation of what will happen. Right.
Yeah, but if you're doing a show about podcasters, you might have a point in time where you actually have to explain what a fucking podcaster is.
Yeah, but as you go along, when you watch the episode,
not everybody knows what podcasting is.
Yeah, but when you watch the episode, it explains itself, right? But you get the you take your inspiration from news, talking to other people, radio, anything that any interaction with humans, right? And
all right, what do you think? What do you think, Skylar?
I think it's a good idea. I'm sure it would get like some kind of, at least like a pilot order, but like the podcast idea with all of the, subtle hints going on in the background. If like one person catches on to that stuff, then they can like talk about it, and it goes, because there's a couple shows that do like that, hidden stuff in the background that you don't have to pick up on to enjoy the show, but it's just like added extra content. So I think it's a good idea.
That, and of course, in my opinion, and that's what counts anyway, is that these people would come in and some of the jokes, some of the humor would be subtle that they didn't get it the first time, but they'll get it the second time. So I figured that one also. I mean, how many times do we rewatch a show and I'm like, oh, I didn't get that joke the first time, or I didn't get that humor the first time. I'm like, I get it now. Oh, it's so hilarious.
Well, I think that, for example, and I hate to keep plugging the show because it's been off the air forever, but this is why that show is so clever in Community. They blatantly reference other shows and other common situations that you see in sitcoms throughout the entire thing, which I think is really funny. They even make a comment on, there's a guy and a girl who are, to me, are not the main characters. They're the main characters, but I'm like, I don't really care about them that much. I'm not invested in them as a relationship. And they said something in one of the shows about how, well, you're no Jim and Pam.
Oh,
and
yeah.
You're no, what was the other guy's name? Oh God, from Cheers.
Sam and Diane.
Yeah, you're no Sam and Diane or whatever. And I thought that was funny. I'm like, oh, they're making all these, they take on all these normal tropes that you see in these shows, and they're actually putting them out there, and they make fun of them, or they say stuff about them, or they reference them, or in even common, like I said, common situations, which I think is funny. I'm like, that's a show that you usually don't see that, where people just bring that up.
but it's using that subtlety, like I mentioned, as background. But you have to really think.
I don't think that's subtle. I think that's the writers having fun.
But it's subtle, though. I mean, not many
No,
people know.
it's not subtle if they're just doing it. They're outright doing it. What's subtle about that? That's not subtle. That's in your face.
No, it's subtle because if you don't know who Sam and Diane are, then you won't get it. You're like, oh, it's just another couple. But to those who understand it, they get it. They do. Jim and Pam. Once again, it's subtle humor to those who understand it. Then you go back and rewatch the show, and they're like, oh, this is where we referenced it. Oh, I used to watch the show. I didn't make the connection. Now I make the connection, and it's that much more funnier. Right? So it's a subtle hint.
Yeah.
It's like a Scooby-Doo mystery.
Sure. All right, what do you got, Skylar?
So
it's greenlit. Let's go with it.
Let's see.
I think that the idea is very underdeveloped, and you would need a lot of help.
Well,
yeah, but I still think there's good stuff there.
Before we pass judgment on it.
No, I'm saying it's okay.
About my idea,
but you're heavily depending on other people to make the show.
No, I'm just heavily dependent on myself at this point. I could make the show, but you said what are your cast of characters, right? So if I have a cast of characters, it'll be just 3 people, right, doing a podcast, or 2 people for that matter, right, and seeing how it works. Basically, a comedy buddy routine sometimes that works. Right? Okay. Look at what is it? Oh, geez, so many out there, but I can't think of who was the Perfect Strangers, right? They were roommates. One from
show does not stand the test of time. Highly do not recommend watching it.
When you look at that, My Two Dads, right? Mm-hmm. So how can you answer this question without sethering? How it's going to go?
All right, we're moving on then.
We're moving on.
Let's move on.
It's already greenlit, Sky.
he's greenlit himself. So
let's go with it.
All right. So I was thinking about it for a couple of days, but I'll just give an idea like now, like right off the top of my head, and see how it goes. So if I had to pitch a TV show, I would do something like I don't see a lot of time travel in like TV shows. I usually see that more in movies. So I guess if I had to pick one, I would combine a couple of things I've read from like the comics, because there's a lot of people who, or even in movies and stories, they travel back in time to prevent disasters or prevent crimes. So I guess I would do a comedy where this guy is given this future technology and he decides that he wants to go back and stop like not really big events from happening. He just wants to stop like petty crimes just because he's that bored, but he's very, very bad at it. He's not in any kind of good shape. He is not a good fighter, and he relies heavily on weapons. So you just have this guy from a very distant year in the future who travels backwards in time and lives and settles in like North Dakota or somewhere very rural where there's not even like a lot of crime going on. And he has to like grapple with the fact that he can't go back to the future and he's just stuck in this time to fight petty crimes with all of his future knowledge. So that would be my pitch.
Wow, that's really cool.
It does.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. So you're kind of taking
like Quantum Leap.
The Quantum Leap, you're taking a little bit of Voyagers.
What was that?
A little bit of Time Cop.
Sliders, too.
All of which I have never seen.
I don't think I've ever seen Sliders.
Oh, that's an excellent sci-fi show. Now that you bring it up, it was about guys sliding from one Earth to another in a multiverse. And they were trying to get back to their home planet or their home Earth. But they always ran into problems and situations.
I'm going to say I like this idea already.
Sliders? It's already been pitched.
Not that. Motherfucker. His idea. No, do you remember Voyagers, Ronz?
Voyagers.
Voyagers was the kid and the guy. The guy was a time traveler, but he never paid
attention. Yeah, I do.
But he never paid attention in history class, and the job of those guys was to go back and forth and try to fix small things in history.
I love that show. In fact, I remember how the lead character actually went on to another show, and he died because there was a set accident.
Yeah, he accidentally shot himself in the head.
I remember that. And I thought, this guy's a great actor. He's going to go pretty far. But yeah, I remember that.
Unfortunately, he did not.
Yeah, I mean, that was a great
It was a really cool show because his sidekick, get this, Skylar, his sidekick was a kid whose father was a history teacher. And it was so far-fetched. I mean, it wasn't far-fetched because the kid's like my age. But it was funny because the adult didn't know shit about history, so they would travel through time through history, trying to get back to their time. And everywhere they went, they'd try to fix something or set something right or whatever. But the adult didn't know shit about history, but this kid knew everything about history.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. I thought it was great, yeah.
It's a good show. It's one of my favorite shows, actually.
Okay.
I remember watching it. Yeah,
it was not on that many seasons. And then you switched to Quantum Leap, which was really cool. Just about a guy who, same thing, couldn't get back to his own time. He was a doctor of quantum physics?
He was involved in a government program that would leap.
Yeah, but he was a doctor of quantum physics, right?
Sure, why not?
Yeah, he's a PhD, and that's why they picked him, because but he would, instead of time traveling, quote, time traveling, he would actually leap into another person's body, but have his mind, and their body, their whatever would be in his where they were. So they're just like sitting there in a room waiting for him to do whatever needed to be done on the other end. And then once whatever situation was fixed, then he leaped to somewhere else inadvertently. It wasn't him doing it. He just couldn't get back.
Okay.
It was very interesting, but he was a good guy. He's a good guy. I like your idea of, I like this idea. It's very good.
You always like Sky's idea.
Well, it's not because it's better than yours. Your idea sucked. No.
It's not like, what do they call that? Nepotism? No, you can't even hear it here.
You're telling me this is not a good idea. This is a great idea.
Yeah. No,
but this is not. Here's the question, though. You're not. Are you planning? Is this supposed to be a comedy?
Yeah, so it
would be a comedy. Is yours a comedy?
Yeah, it would be a comedy because I think one of the directions you could go with is like he accepts that he's not going because he time traveled back to become like a hero, so he accepts he's not going back to his timeline. But like I said, he moves to somewhere where the crime rate is so low, or that there's just really not a lot going on, that you just do it where he has to get like some kind of insanely normal job. But
Ronz, what if he jumped to Mayberry?
Oh, that would be cool.
That would be fucking hilarious.
I'd missed that reference. I don't understand.
Because Mayberry's so laid back.
So there's a show on in the 60s? 50s?
Okay.
What do you think, Ronz? 50s?
I don't Mayberry's, yeah.
Mayberry. I mean, the Andy Griffith show was in black and white.
Yeah, it was. It was black and white.
Ron Howard was a kid.
Yeah.
Well, that's the show we're talking about. They lived in the town.
Okay.
They lived in the town of Mayberry, where there's no crime.
Right.
Well,
there's literally very, very minimal crime.
Very minimal crime because back then the sheriff ruled with common sense and not a gun.
I think that he didn't even carry a gun, did he?
No, I don't think he did. Right. I know that Barney carried a weapon and one bullet that he kept in his pocket.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was one of those things where.
But hilarious. No, if you brought him back to a time like that, or if you brought him back like the time of the Little Rascals, oh my God, that'd be freaking hilarious.
Yeah, so I definitely don't think.
I can't see that happening. No, with the Little Rascals, no.
Those little rapscallions.
No,
just have children running in the background.
At some point, if this guy
dog with a circle painted on its eye.
Well, the thing is, if this guy's as inept as you say he is, one of those Little Rascals is going to wind up dying. They're going to wind up dying somehow in a tragic accident. What do you mean I'm not supposed to light this candle? It's going to go boom here. It goes boom.
Here, mister. Show this other end in your ass.
Yeah. Jesus. Yeah, I can't see that happening. I mean, not to mention that he would, I could see back then all the diseases that'll happen. Yeah, he tries to cure them, but he winds up killing half the population of North Dakota.
Well, he's not a doctor, for God's sake. He's not supposed to mess with history.
Once
He's
again,
not supposed to mess with history that much.
But knowing that he's got knowledge of some sort of medical.
What? Who said that? Who said that at all? Nobody
He's
said
got
that.
knowledge of the future, so you would have some basic knowledge of how to, take aspirin.
Maybe preventative.
Yeah, but we're not
Yeah.
supposed to go back for him only. Yeah, but for him only. I mean, he's going to already have all of his shots for everything.
Yeah, but he's going to
If he
try and
comes
help
back,
those
that's the whole
people.
point, though. That's the whole. Isn't that the whole point of time traveling? Is you're not supposed to fuck with stuff that much.
Or even if theoretically, if you do, it's going to happen anyway. So that's
Right.
why he's going back to mess with like small stuff.
Just you said just to make himself look good.
Yeah, just to make himself like
Which
feel
would be
better. It's
funny.
like, yeah.
So if you knew, for example, that and this person doesn't dry, if they're painting a house and they're at the bottom of the ladder, and the paint can falls over and hits them in the head and coats them in paint. If you do something just as simple as walk by and move that person out of the way when the can hits the ground, I mean that's funny.
Yeah, or even just him picking up the bucket, like, no, that could have been bad, and then just moving on his way.
Yeah.
Like small stuff like that really consequentially in the big picture of people's lives probably doesn't really matter that much. But to him, it's like you combine so many of them and stack them on top of each other that it finally looks like something.
Yeah, and that's a win. You're like, oh, that's a win.
Yeah. But then it just like it devolves into it's just him in this small town with all of this knowledge and really nothing else to do. So he has to like get a job and still build his life, but he also still wants to use his knowledge of the future to do stuff for other people.
It would
So-
that's actually pretty funny because if you did it where if he came from like this huge network of people and it was the same thing and somebody's like, oh dude, I got assigned to the Bronx. I know everything about the Bronx. And he's like, I got Mayberry.
Yeah.
Like he knows nothing else about, I mean, he knows world history, but like not the subtle nuances of everything that goes on day to day in everybody's lives. But this is
Right.
the one town that he knows everything about. That would be fucking hilarious.
Yeah, so that's what I think would be like a good like pitch. Like it's just a time travel, fish out of water situational comedy.
Yeah. This guy's like,
Alright.
I got Galesburg. What the?
Why did you get Galesburg?
I got Galesburg. What the fuck?
That would be pretty funny.
Yeah. It would,
So
you know,
this
and then
guy
you
would
get,
be
like, it would be funny too, is if you had the people that like went to school with you to learn all these things, but
Yeah.
you guys keep in contact. And like somebody's like, they're calling you and they're from like Los Angeles. They're like, dude, you'll never guess what I did today. And you're like, yeah, I put a chicken back in the coop.
So basically, I punched this up because it reminded me of something I'd saw, and it was called The Adventures of Briscoe County Jr.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, Bruce Campbell, one of my favorite actors. But it's the subtlety of that is he was always fighting crime, but with futuristic type gadgets and just basically what you were saying. He's bringing the knowledge in there. I remember watching an episode of it.
That's
and
a
it kind of
good
reminded
show.
me of
I
that.
forgot all about that show. Yeah, you would like that show, Skylar. It's
I'll
totally
have to
goofy.
check it out.
Yeah, Bruce Campbell. I forgot about that.
Oh yeah, and he's a great actor when it comes to stuff like that. In fact, if you've ever watched him in the Evil Dead series, I like that.
Of course, we all know who Bruce Campbell is. We're
Yeah.
from Michigan.
Well, he also stars in the Spider-Man movie.
The first three, yeah.
Yep. And Sam Raimi, who is also from this area, right? Did he direct those? Or yeah, he directed those, didn't he?
Yeah, Sam Raimi directed the first three Spider-Man movies and then the Evil Dead movies, etc.
Well, yeah, because that's how Bruce Campbell got into them.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I really did I like Bruce Campbell just about anything. So if you get a chance to check out, I agree. Check out Briscoe County Jr., which is really funny.
Yeah, I would
Okay.
say you have to look at. Here's what I would have to say. Here's the nice thing about being in, I guess, in the industry that you're in. Like if somebody tells me, "Oh, this is what I would recommend that you read this about EKGs and stroke," and very fucking boring. For you, I would say I would recommend the show Voyagers is not going to stand the test of time.
Right.
but I would watch an episode or clips of it. Quantum Leap, I think, is pretty good. They could probably reboot that show and actually make a decent show on Sci-Fi Network.
Probably.
Sliders, I've never seen.
Sliders was really good, but that's more or less like Quantum Leap with the multiverse.
But Looper and Time Cop, you got to watch those.
Yeah.
And even though it is
Jean-Claude Van Damme?
even though it is Van Damme, it's a pretty decent show, pretty decent movie.
Wow.
I would say Looper is probably better.
That's with Bruce Willis, am I correct? And
yeah, Bruce Willis and
Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Yeah.
Yeah, that looks pretty good. I think my secondary pitch, by the way, since we're on this topic, was going to be a day in the life of a porn star.
That's been done.
Yeah, but not from a comedy point of view.
Is it not? Aren't their lives comedic?
Well, they can
There's
be.
a show on Netflix. It's called After Porn Ends or something like that.
Okay.
It's pretty sad show. That's a docuseries.
Yeah, it's a couple years old, I think. I haven't watched it.
One. Yeah, they've got more than one series. Pretty sad.
Yeah.
But,
no, I see it. Yeah.
are you typing again? Yeah.
Please don't watch it while we're wrapping up the episode.
I'm not watching it. I'm actually focusing on you guys. All right.
That's even worse if you're watching it and focusing on it.
No.
Are you saying that's not worse? I think it's worse.
Well, what do you think, Sky? Is it worse?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, as we continue our social distancing during this time of the pandemic, let me just say a couple words about the pandemic.
What couple of words and how many?
I am
That's a couple words.
We're going to have our social media up. Ron's is going to get it rolling.
I will.
With my assistance. Please don't post your stupid shit on there about the COVID-19, SARS-CoV-2, your stupid opinions. All I can say is this: stop listening to stupid people. Start listening to fucking science. You guys sound fucking idiotic, and there's no. That's why I fucking don't even like going on Facebook anymore, just to see what people are doing. Everybody's got to post their stupid opinions. No, you should not be going out there and eating chloroquine from a freaking fish tank.
Okay.
You should not be doing all that other bullshit. Okay?
On that note, this was the actual launch date for the Facebook website. I was going to do it on April 1st, and I thought that'd be a great day to launch our podcast. You know, kind of tie in with the old the whole April Fool's thing, and you know, we're comedy show / podcast kind of thing, throwing it all together. Then the pandemic hit, and I'm thinking, you know what? Let's scale back a bit. Let's just do that because too many people are just going to be totally fucking nuts out there, and I don't need the competition with being crazy. All right.
Yeah, a lot of misinformation, but that was happening before. So I don't know.
But not as much. I mean,
it's just people coming out of the woodwork now.
Yeah. Right.
The thing that people are saying is going to get people killed. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, it will.
You're going to get people killed because you're fucking stupid and your opinions don't matter. And when you're listening to stuff that people are going, oh, well, this doctor said this. I'm like, really? Did they really say that? Oh, I'm sorry. Do they sit on the council for the World Health Organization? Oh, are they with the CDC? Oh, no, they're just some fucktard in a clinic somewhere. Big deal. You know, what I should do, this is what I should do. I should really write a script and film myself just for fun and put it on our website of me spouting off bullshit because I'm a doctor too. So why doesn't everybody fucking believe me? Here's the other thing is, you know what, Ron? I think everybody should start blaming us because if you remember before this happened, before all this happened, you and I did a podcast about the apocalypse. And what did I say was going to kill us all?
Stupidity.
I said a super flu. I said a super flu or a super pathogen.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah,
if I remember correctly.
Well,
so
both
clearly,
of them combined.
clearly I knew about it before everybody else did.
Well, actually, history tells you that a pandemic was going to happen. It's just you had to connect the dots. And most people are not going to connect those dots because they live their lives. And for the most part, with the modern medical facilities we have out there, we can usually stem off a pandemic before it starts. Or if it starts, we can contain it. This just got out of hand.
If the government listens to the people who are medical instead of listening to people who pull shit out of their ass. Oh, I know more than you because I'm a politician. Oh, that's how that works. Oh, I wasn't aware.
But also,
Oh, okay.
but also staying
Gotcha.
clean too. And I don't mean that by just staying healthy and clean and eating decent food. And let's go back to Doritos versus a salad when most people can afford good, decent food. That's it's totally bullshit in my opinion. I think everybody's got a right to a decent meal. Everybody should have clean food and clean water, but not everybody does. And then again, not everybody fucking listens to that smart common sense idea, right? So it was just, when does this pandemic happen? And
Well, yes, but my point was this. If you're going to listen to bullshit, at least give us some publicity and say, hey, you know what? That Beaveman guy, he said this in January. So clearly he knew about it. So he's tied in with the whole conspiracy thing. I'm just trying to get us publicity for the podcast, Ronz. That's what I'm trying to do.
okay, I agree with that. Let me play this. Then let me say this. I'll play it this way. Wow, you're smart. Okay.
No, was I
You could
smart
even-
or was I part of the whole thing?
You could even go back to your Halloween episode where you wrote the story about.
Oh, that's right. About the
Mad
prions.
cow. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Could even take it back further.
That is
I-
true.
That's great.
That's why I wrote about another pandemic that was killing all of us. That is true. You're right. I could go back that far. Oh, clearly I was a genius. Whatever boosts the podcast numbers. That's all I got to say.
Oh, sounds good.
There you
All
go.
right. Well, I'm a big fan of all these shows except for Ron's. And no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Once again, we're not going to play nepotism into this because
I'm
you
just going to say,
you have to go see your son, and you have to walk past him. And we're like, oh, you didn't like my show,
no,
did you?
I just feel like you have these fragments of ideas, and if you just wrote them out, you'd have a good idea.
Well,
Yeah, you just got to
I
piece them
think that
together.
I think that you pitch pieces, and then we have to fill in the blanks.
well,
Which I'd rather have you pitch a solid idea, and then we improve
You
on
didn't
your
tell me
idea
that.
or ask you a question about it.
you didn't tell me that. You said just with it. So I've done. Once again, I'm listening to your advice, and you're telling me it's not good advice.
I don't know. That's
Right? I could sit down there and write down exactly what you want. But how many times I said, "Hey, do you want me to write a script?" You're like, "No, just go with
no,
it."
it's not a script. I didn't ask you to write a script. What I said was have an actual idea.
Well,
You know,
yeah.
you're like, well, what I would do is if I had two characters. Well, no, maybe it's three. Well, maybe five.
Okay,
And
so
if
what you're
they-
saying is,
If they met each other,
okay,
I
so
think there's podcasting somewhere.
so you
so the
want
show's
me
about
to
podcasting. But
literally?
they also have separate lives.
Do you want me to write out a script for?
It's not a
whatever.
script. It would
I know
just
it's not
have
a
one
script.
idea.
You're saying
Just
it's
have
not a
an
script.
idea.
I understand. This is how I'm equating it to it, but I will write out an entire idea. Give me a topic. I'll write out the entire idea for a week, and
I feel
that
like you
way,
missed the point.
I
I feel
didn't
like
miss
you're
the
missing
point.
the point. Yes, you are, because I gave you a compliment. I said it's a good idea, but you're giving fragments of ideas, and we have to fill them in. Whereas all you have to do is say, "Here, I got an idea for this show. It's about this group of people who are going to do a podcast, and what I want to do is I want to show their separate lives, but I want to show them coming together to do this podcast and producing this podcast." That's a solid idea. Then we just build off of that idea.
That sounds exactly
That's
what
not a
we're doing
script.
right now.
That's not a script.
So that's exactly what we're doing right now.
Well, anyway, nice job on that.
I think
I like the
everybody's got a
idea.
great idea.
Yes, everybody has a great idea. And we're always willing to hear what everybody else has to say. So send us an email. You send us an email, I'm sure the Rons will respond to you.
I
This
will.
is our email address. slaptailsquad@gmail.com. That's our email. Our website is slaptailnation.com.
Yeah. And please feel free to leave a comment. All right, we would love to hear from you.
Yeah, if you feel like saying that the Beefman's an asshole and Ron's had a really great idea, I'm okay with that.
I'm
If
okay
you want to
too.
leave a comment and say that Ron's thoughts are not scattered about and they're clear and concise and clearly I just can't interpret them, that's fine too.
Oh, I would go with that part too. But, all right. All right. And and speaking of that, I want to say I love the comment. It's fun to see how let me do this. It's fun to see how easily the Rons can get distracted by a shiny penny. That made my wife laugh so fucking hard. And I said, is that true? It's like, well, not completely true, but it's like, I love how you guys just go off topic. And I'm like, okay, that's great.
And that's why you're my number 2, because there's not a time that goes by that you can't fill the space of some podcast air with your brilliant thoughts.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
That's why you're here. That's why you're here. All right. Well, that's it for me, the Beaveman. And unless anybody else has got anything to say.
No. A shout out to everybody out there staying safe. The guys and the women in the medical field. Stay safe. You guys are doing a great job. And for everybody else out there, stay safe and be sane.
Yeah, be sane is always good. I agree with that one. And if you're not sane, still listen to our podcast.
Oh, definitely. It'll help you.
Yeah. All right. Adios, mooch fuckos. That's where you guys say goodbye.
Oh, goodbye.
Every fucking time. Every fucking time I gotta say, this is where you say the fuck goodbye. Say goodbye. God damn it, just say goodbye.
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 Take care.